It was nearly 15 years ago when police officer Brenda Sexton was brutally beaten to death by her then boyfriend, Sam Lupo, leaving behind 5 young children.
I was 10 years old when Sam killed my mother. That morning, I ran into my mother's room because I heard my little sister, Morgan, crying. The lights were off in the room, and I tried to wake my mother up. I lifted the pillow up, and at that point, I realized that my mother was no longer with us. Her face was caved in. I really couldn't recognize her at all, and it was a terrible sight to see. There was blood everywhere, on the floor, on the wall, on the bed. It was on the baseball bat that he used. It was pretty bad. I ran downstairs to wake up my brothers. To this day, I regret telling my brothers to go look. When we went upstairs, it was an unbelievable sight that I'll never forget. When Tony moved the pillow from her face, I was kind of in disbelief. I was shocked. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It wasn't her beautiful face. The face was gone.
When I went upstairs inside my mother's room, I was by myself. I stood at the end of her bed and I looked and I saw her laying there motionless. I fell into immediate shock and I ran downstairs into my brother's arms. My brother Tony had grabbed my sister. We started walking down the street. An off-duty cop asked us what was wrong and why we were crying. I remember being in the back of the car and seeing the ambulance having a black bag. And at that time, I realized that my mother was never coming back.
I was away at a church retreat when it happened. When I was leaving for my church retreat, she came up behind me, gave me a hug, and said, "I love you." And I said, "I love you too." That's one of my favorite memories that I have of my mom.
As you can only imagine, losing their mother at such a young age has had a great effect on these 5 siblings.
I miss my mom every day. Not having my mom has prevented me from wanting to move forward and have children and have a big, beautiful wedding, because those are supposed to be happy moments. And there is going to be a lot of sadness with her not being there.
It's very hard for me to think about getting married and having kids, because my kids aren't going to be able to meet their grandmother. At some point, I did feel a little guilt, because as a child, I felt that maybe I was part of the reason that domestic violence was going on within my household. But as I grew older, I realized it was not my fault.
If kids see abuse, they should definitely speak up to somebody in their family or somebody that they trust so they can protect their family.
I'm very angry with Sam. Not only did he take my mother away from me, but he hurt my brothers and my little sister. And for that, I can never forgive him.
I can honestly say that I hate Sam for what he's done to my family.
I have forgiven him, but there is a side of me that I can't. It's like God says to forgive and forget, but it's hard. It's very hard.
I was 7 months old when my father murdered my mother. I hear a lot of stories about my mom from my siblings. In a way, I feel close to her because I've heard a lot of wonderful things about her, and everyone always says that I remind them of her.
Well, as you all know, my wife Robin has made it her mission to help and empower and protect women and children being affected by domestic violence, which is why she created her foundation, When Georgia Smiled, in honor of her mother. And when I came home and told Robin about this story, she immediately wanted to meet these courageous young adults. So I'm glad you guys are all here. So thank you so much for being here. So this has been 15 years, right, since this took place. From the kids' point of view, what's it like when domestic violence takes that worst turn and you're left with the aftermath and you've lost a parent in this way? Sam Lupo took your mother away. What's that do to you in the aftermath?
It leaves you broken. I have to tell stories about my mom. She doesn't get to meet her mom. She's not here to help, guide them through what they're going through. And there's a lot of people, like my Aunt Patricia, who comes along and helps us, but it's not the same.